Okay, so this video will be about things I made and things I learned in 2024. And part of this reflection is to give myself some direction on what I want to do in 2025. And something that I am committing to for 2025 is taking more time to explore the creative process. So that's sort of, I just want to set that as the framework for what I will be talking about throughout the rest of this video. And I want to start with a quote. So this is by Ted Chiang, and Sophia Luzon referred me to this article. And if you haven't heard me talk about Sophia Luzon before, you will definitely, if you follow my channel or if you listen to me on the podcast, I'm always talking to Sophia Luzon. She's a very strong source of inspiration, and she just helps me. She's a good friend, and we have great conversations about how we see the world and how we make decisions in our lives and our businesses. And I'm just really lucky to have her. So she referred me to this quote, this article in The New Yorker by Ted Chiang. It's called "Why AI Isn't Going to Make Art." And we came to this article. She referred it to me because we were having a conversation about, I was talking about how I want to explore the creative process more, my own personal creative process, because I spent a lot of time sort of working with and around the creative process of others. And I've liked doing that. As a technical designer, as a pattern maker, I'm happy to take somebody else's garments and designs and turn them into something functional. That's my favorite part of the process. But I think exploring my own creativity in some way, just through my own personal lens, will, I don't know. I don't know what it does, but I think it'll make me a more well-rounded designer. I think it'll help me to, I don't know. I think it will make my life more fulfilling. That's what I think to be true. So let me share this quote with you. It says, "Whether you are creating a novel or a painting or a film, you are engaged in an act of communication between you and your audience. What you create doesn't have to be utterly unlike every prior piece of art in human history to be valuable. The fact that you're the one who's saying it, the fact that it derives from your unique life experience and arrives at a particular moment in the life of whoever is seeing your work is what makes it new. We are all products of what has come before us, but it's by living our lives in interaction with others that we bring meaning to the world." So I think that's much better said than the way that I say it, but it captures what I'm trying to say. So what I've done in the past and how I'm looking towards the future with the work that I'm doing is sort of summarized in this framework. Okay, so let's get into the video. Things I made and things I learned in 2024. Okay, the first thing, my website. I was super happy with how it came out. I spent a lot of time working on this. I went through various different platforms to land on this website. It's hosted by Adobe Portfolios, and it's wayfinder3d.com. So I guess I'll put it up on the screen. This is what my website looks like. And I really like this homepage. This was a project I actually did in 2023. I was working for Kristen Anderson, and her client was Mentionables. So I was hired by Kristen Anderson as an agency to help with the digital product development of these garments. And then when you enter the website, you get to the services page. So these are the different services that I offer as a freelance 3D intimate apparel designer. And then the next page is my portfolio. So this is all past work that I've done. I'll talk about this pink panty one in a second here. It's a collaborative project that I did this year along with Kristen Anderson. I also have the course, which I'll talk a little bit about more a little bit later on, Pro 3D Foundations for Intimate Apparel. I have my podcast called Underdressed. which I did, I think, around 20 episodes this year. So very happy with the podcast. And then there's the About Me section with this photograph of me in, I think that's Resolute Bay, somewhere way up north and cold and windy. That's from my time in the military. So the website. So I'm very proud of how it came out. I think it looks beautiful, but I'm not sure that I'm going to keep it. It cost me $15 a month to host this website on Adobe Portfolio. I don't know. I'm not sure that it provides the value to my business to cover the cost of keeping it on Adobe Portfolio. So I might be changing it out this year, which I don't really want to do because I'm very happy with the way it looks, and it took a long time to get here, but that is a work in progress. So things I learned from my website, so the lesson that I learned from that is I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't have a clear lesson learned from that. It's the lesson, I guess, is that I need to make a decision on whether I keep that portfolio up or not, or if there's a better option that is less expensive. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say I learned a little bit about website design, and there's no future where I participate in website design. It's definitely not like something that I'm particularly interested in. So I learned that I don't want to do website design. But anyways, I don't have anything else to say about my website. It's there. I like it, but I'm not sure if I'll keep it. Okay, the podcast. My podcast, it's called Underdressed. I have how many episodes out now? I have 38 episodes on the podcast, and I think I did how many this year? I've been doing it for 2 years now, and this year in 2024, I did 17 episodes. So I love it. I love the podcast. It's more work than I always expect it to be. It always takes much longer. And I learned that actually from doing it in 2023. So I think I will continue doing the podcast, but there'll probably be less episodes this year. And I'm going to be a little more intentional about the guests that I bring on the podcast, and maybe I'm going to try and be a little bit more organized about what the subject of the podcast is. If you've listened to it, the intent from when I started it was to create a podcast about the technical design development of intimate apparel. I want to know about the people who are making the products. And you know what? It's really hard. It's really hard to talk to people who are making the products, because if they're working for a brand, they're under NDAs and they are not allowed to talk about the brands that they're working for. And then if you get to somebody who is able to represent the brand, they're not the technical designers. So I found that to be kind of hard. But I've had a lot of good conversations with other freelancers, particularly, or other independent, small business owners who are able to talk about the development of their product. And that has been really interesting for me. And I do have a couple of really interesting conversations lined up for this year already. It's going to be more geared toward digital design development, because that's definitely the aspect that I'm most interested in, because I'm interested in efficiency and increasing productivity and making better products by having a better plan to make your products, by using the digital environment to really evaluate and assess your design before you go into the physical production of it. And I always have to throw in the caveat, there has to be the physical production of it. You do have to test a physical sample on a physical body, especially for intimate apparel, but you can work out a lot of the flaws and design problems in a digital environment before bringing it to the physical environment, so that the overall process is much more efficient and you can get to a better product in the end. So that's the podcast. What did I learn from the podcast this year? I learned that that's the direction that I want to go in with it. My favorite conversations and the favorite topics whenever I'm talking to any of the guests on my podcast is whether they are already or if they are looking at using digital software to help with the development of their products. So I learned that's the direction that I want to keep pursuing with the guests and the topics on Underdressed. Okay, what else did I make in 2024? Podcasts, freelance projects. So this is tied in with what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, where I want to explore my own personal creative process more, because as a freelancer, you're sort of a part of somebody else's project. So it's never really my own. And there's a lot of projects that I've worked on this year that I can't even share because I'm under NDA. And so I'm not allowed to share that work, which I find so, like, I feel like as a designer, like, I'm proud of the work that I do and I want to be able to share it. And so it's really, I find it, I mean, I get it. I'm paid to do this work. And so when you're paid to do the work, it no longer belongs to me. So for freelance work, I got to do a lot of projects for Kristen Anderson, and she had her team developing a backlog of the styles of previous styles that she developed in clothes. So I got to work on a library of assets of previous garments. So that was really interesting. And the most interesting part of creating this digital asset library is that you're not only creating the garments, but you're also creating the parts of these garments that you can now reuse as a starting point for a derivative garment from it. So for example, I have a file that only has straps with hardware on it already. And whenever I'm creating a new bra, then I can already start with these straps that are already made. It's like if you're working in Illustrator, you might have, you have a certain amount of assets that you already have made so that you're not making everything from scratch all the time. It's the same idea with Clo3D. So I have a library of materials made. I have a library of hardware already made. I have a library of garments that are already finished. And then when I start a new project, I can pull from the library to create this new design. So that was probably one of the favorite projects that I've been working on a freelancer that started in 2023. And I did a little bit of that in 2024 as well. So from freelancing, I learned the importance and the value of creating a library for your digital assets. Okay, what else did I learn from freelance projects this year? I learned that I don't necessarily want to spend any more time looking for more freelance work. I have spent about 2 years doing it now, working as a freelancer and taking on projects. And I loved it. It was so interesting looking at different clients and how they work and how their businesses work. But as I move forward, I kind of want to do more of my own thing, because it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to work with a freelance client and then not be able to show your work, for one thing, but also then I don't have time left over to pursue my own thing. And so at the end of this year, at the end of 2024, I decided to slow down on my freelance work. And I'm still open to taking on freelance clients, but I'm going to be a lot more picky about the type of projects that I actually take on so that I can put more time and energy into my own thing. Okay, so speaking of my own thing, I updated my course, Clo3D Foundations for Intimate Apparel. So at the end of 2024, I took a lot of time. I didn't take on any freelance projects and I just focused on updating that course. And I found it very fulfilling to spend the time and energy just really digging into what the updates were in Clo and thinking about what's most useful to my students who are just learning the program for the first time. And they need the information to create the garments that they want to create. When you take these generic courses on how to learn Clo, you're learning a lot of stuff that you probably, maybe it's just too much. You're not going to use everything when you first start out. I think the best way to start is with something specific. Grow your skills in that area. Make sure you can do it really well. And then I find it easier to move on to other types of garments. And I did that this year with making my Arc'teryx jacket, and I'll get back to that in a second. But I really appreciated having the time to dig into the new tools in Clo, and then make sure that my course reflects all of the most up-to-date tools and techniques for creating intimate apparel garments, because I'm passionate about it. I want to see it used in the industry. I want to see it used in schools. It's incredibly useful for learning pattern making, for learning garment construction, and for saving the time and the paper and the fabric and all the things. When you create garments in a digital environment, you can go through so many more iterations and ideas and gain a better overall understanding of garments before moving to the physical process. And again, you have to also participate in the physical process, but you can just do so. When you get there to the physical side of things, you've gotten to that physical garment in a much more efficient way. So, what did I learn from doing the course? Well, I learned that I want to do more of that. So I am planning at the end of this year to launch another course. And it's going to be one of two courses. It will be either Clo 3D for the technical intimate apparel designer, or Clo 3D advanced intimate apparel techniques. So if you are interested in taking one of those courses, if you've already done Clo 3D Foundations for Intimate Apparel, let me know which one you would be more interested in seeing, and you can leave it down in the comments below. Another project that I worked on this year, which was also extremely fulfilling for me, was called Intimate Conversations in Clo. It was hosted by Kristen Anderson, and it was a series of monthly workshops where she collected a group of designers with different levels of experience, either in Clo or in the intimate apparel industry in general. So some of us had a lot of experience in Clo and less experience in the industry, and some of us had a lot of experience in the industry and less experience using Clo. So we would come together, and one of us would be in the hot seat, and we'd sit down and we would submit a series of designs that we all created. The audience would vote on which one they wanted us to make that day. And then one of us designers would go into Clo and create that design. And it was so much fun, and I learned so much from it. And I will show you the garments that we ended up making. So we ended up making this mini collection with these 4 garments, and I'll pop them up on the screen right here. And what did I learn from this? I learned, again, this is a lesson that I learned over and over again, but being able to reach out to people with more experience than you and get their perspectives on things is so useful in making your own designs better. And I also learned I want to do more of this. It was super, I really like it. It's a way, it keeps me moving forward with exploring my design process, and I'm going to find a way in 2025 to keep this going. I've been like mulling around in my head different ideas on how I can do this. Maybe it's a YouTube live stream once a week. It's really hard to coordinate like a group of people. So I think I'll just do it. I think it'll just be an independent project if I do it this year. So again, let me know in the comments, would you rather see like this as it would be like a design with me series, and it could either be on YouTube as a YouTube live stream once a week, which I could then turn into YouTube videos after, or I could make it like a monthly Zoom call so that if you're interested in joining. That way it's a little bit more, I feel like there's a little bit more engagement with that. And then I could still turn that into YouTube videos afterwards. I'm not sure what the method looks like yet, but in 2025, I definitely want to keep designing in public because I feel like it just keeps you moving forward with the design process. Okay, what else did I make this year? I made a handful more YouTube videos than I have in the past. Like I said, towards the end of the year especially, I'm leaning more into my own business, and part of that is going to be making YouTube videos to share my work and share my knowledge. My favorite YouTube videos were a brief design series where I am making a basic underwear and it's for myself. And I went through the process. I thought this would be like a 10-15 minute video, take a pattern, put a fabric on it, and then make it. It's not that hard to make it's not that hard to make an underwear. But once I started making the video and I was interested in sharing my process, I really got into the nitty-gritty of all the details just out of my own personal interest. Like, how exactly do we measure elastic in clothes so that it's representative of the elastic that I'm using in real life? And how exactly does a pattern relate to the body in Clo 3D, and how do you get your avatar to match your body measurements in Clo 3D? So it ended up being a series of videos to it. There's 3 parts to it right now. The first one is how I created the fabric for Clo. So I took a fabric from my own stash and I turned that into a digital fabric. The second video is about avatars. So I used a Clo avatar because I thought it was important to show how we can use the assets that are available in Clo to create products. So I used a Clo avatar and I turned her into my own. I made her represent my body measurements. And then the third video so far is making the pattern, which again ended up being so much more detailed than I expected it to be, but I enjoyed really like swimming around in those details. The final video of that series will be making the physical underwear, which I hope I'm getting to next week because I really want these underwear to be actual physical things in real life. So that was probably my favorite project that I worked on in 2024. And what I learned from that is how much I really enjoy doing it. I really enjoy sharing that process. I really even enjoy the process of figuring out how to make a video and what kind of equipment that I need for it and how to get efficient with the equipment that I already have without being like constantly feeling like I don't have enough, like how to work with what I already have. And I learned that I want to do more of that. So a big goal for myself in 2025 is to make an underwire sports bra. I had one that I owned. It was made by Champion like over a decade ago and the wires broke in them. And I had like 4 of these sports bras and I absolutely loved them. And then Champion stopped making them and I still own the bras. So I want to recreate those this year for myself, because I do CrossFit and I have the worst sports bras right now and there's so much room for improvement. So it's nice to like, my goal is to take the skills that I have and turn them into a product that will benefit me in my life. Okay. What else? And I want to do more tutorials. There's 2 types. I want to do sort of more longer tutorials and some more just quick tip tutorials, because I'm always working in Clo and I think of just like something that doesn't take long. Like I have little aha moments like, oh, that's a good way to use that tool. Or it took me a while to learn this technique. So I want to make more YouTube shorts, quick tip shorts to just like partly to solidify that learning for myself so that I don't forget those tips in the future, and just to help the audience, help you guys. I want, like I said, I want this I want this process to grow. I want it to be more usable and accessible, and I want all of us to be doing it because I truly believe it helps us to make better products. Okay, sticking with the YouTube, I made this Arc'teryx jacket. So I took this jacket that I owned, and I was inspired to do this because when I went to the Chloe User Summit in May or whatever it was, there were a couple of people from Arc'teryx there that I met, and they told me they were heavily using Chloe. So I thought that was super interesting. And I love Arc'teryx as a brand, although they're insanely expensive. So I only have like one jacket that I own from that I bought probably 15 years ago. I made a video where I took the pattern from the jacket, brought that into Chloe, and put it together in Chloe. And because I don't do any work on technical gear like that, it was so interesting to be able to take that pattern apart and look at all of the different pieces to it to get a good understanding of what the amount of work that goes into the patterning of these technical garments. So that was really interesting, and it really pushed myself out of my comfort zone into a product that I don't normally get to work on. And it's not something I think I will ever work on, because to do it as well as Arc'teryx does it, you need really specialized equipment, you need really specialized fabric, and those are not as accessible to me as an independent designer. So that's part of the reason why I lean into doing intimate apparel design, because you can do a lot. Part of the reason why I do intimate apparel design is because you can achieve really high quality garments and get access to really high quality materials. And they aren't insanely expensive because you don't need a whole lot of them, and you can do a lot of you can still put them together with a home sewing machine. So I guess part of the reason why I stick with intimate apparel is because I can achieve really high quality, good functioning garments, and I have access to the materials to create those garments, as opposed to creating technical outerwear, which I don't have access to the materials. I don't have access to the machines that make them. They're a lot more costly just because it requires more material. But it's nice to be able to dabble into that sphere using Chloe. Okay, so what did I learn from that Arc'teryx jacket project? I think I learned that, the value of 3D modeling. So I didn't have to take apart my jacket to really understand how the patterning of it functions. And I really appreciate 3D modeling in general for helping us understand how the world works. I think it's still mind-blowing to me. There's a YouTube channel. Yeah, his name's Jared Owen, and he makes 3D models of really complicated things like the James Webb telescope. He did one of the Titanic, and they're just really good models. So it's how I feel about 3D as well. It helps us understand how the world works, and my little tiny niche corner of this world is understanding how intimate apparel garments work. Okay, now this video is getting super long, and I know I gotta wrap it up. The last project that I want to talk about is this project that I made. I was inspired by it was the 2024 Olympics. I was inspired by the women's beach volleyball team. They did so incredible. They ended up getting the silver medal, and their suits were designed by Left on Friday, which were originally a Canadian company. I'm not sure if they are anymore, but definitely had the best swimsuits in the Olympics. So I created these avatars that had abs because that's fun to make avatars that are actually representative of the bodies that are wearing these garments. So it was fun to make these super cut avatars. And what did I learn from this project? I don't know. Again, I guess I just loved exploring the design of somebody else's design And I want to do more of my own work. I want to see what's actually inspiring to me and what comes from the mind of Trudy. Okay, the last two projects that I'll mention are these two personal projects that I worked on this year. One was a dress that I made for a wedding, which was super fun to make because I used my body scan to actually make the pattern for this dress. And I started with a cashmerette sloper pattern and then turn that into the dress that I eventually made. And I show the full process of that in a couple of YouTube videos. And then I also made this tank top, which I didn't really document the process of through video, but I kind of took notes on it. And I want to make more of these tanks for myself this year because I don't know if you can see it back there, but I have tucked in the side right there. There's a roll of this. It's a really nice tencel rib knit fabric and it needs to be used. It needs to turn into clothing that I can actually use. So I want to make a couple of those next year and just keep exploring this process. Okay, so that's the end of the video. In 2025, I want to explore more of the creative process. It will happen through film and it will happen through Clo 3D and it will happen through creating my own designs. I currently have a undercover project happening right now with a couple of other amazing designers. And I know I said less collaborative projects and more of Trudy only projects, but I think collaboration will still always be the heart of everything that I do because we never ever make anything in isolation. I just think for me personally, I need to take some time. I need to carve out some time specifically for my own creative process. And this includes more of the sharing the digital to physical process. So in 2025, I want to show more of not just the digital design, but how that translates into the physical design. So that's it. I'm wrapping that up for this year. 2024 is over. It was so fun to look back at it and the projects that I've done. And I feel inspired moving into 2025 and I'm super excited to see what lays ahead. I hope that in some way you've gotten some value from this video and I look forward to looking back on this one in 2026. Hi Trudy from 2026. I hope you had a great year and that's it. I'll wrap it up. I'll catch you later. Bye.